And now we have an inspirational reading. I am taking that from the Daily Word for May and June. Mother's Blessing. This is Mother's Month, right? So, to my mother and everyone who has blessed me with a mother's care, I send you love. I say a prayer of thanks for your presence in my life, for the sacrifices you made to give me up the opportunity to grow and learn. You taught me the power of love and gentleness and the strength found in giving. You taught me above all to be true to myself. You are a leader who has taught me to lead by example. All right. Okay, so today's talk title is Mother's Love Brings Harmony to Our Lives. And the individual who is speaking brings harmony to us too. She is a leader, an individual who does prayer for people. She speaks, she leads, she contributes to the teaching of the inner Christ in so many ways. So let's welcome Reverend Mary Ann Kelley, speaking on Mother's Love Brings Harmony to Our Lives. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everyone today? Everyone doing well? Having a good time?
Yes.
Well, today we're going to talk about my mom, my mother. She passed on a couple years ago. My mother's name is Vera, and that means truth. And her middle name is Mildred, and that means mild strength. And that certainly was my mom. She personified these qualities of strength, grace, poise, humor. She had a great sense of humor. With 10 kids, she had to have a sense of humor. So, and then my name, on the other hand, Mary Ann, it means, it can mean bitter, beloved, righteous, wished for a child. That's the one I want. Wished for a child. Or a drop of the sea, flavor or grace. So I like to think of myself as a favor or grace of a wanted child. So there you go. So anyway, my parents were married in 1942, and I came about a year later, a little over a year later. In those days, people would count, so that worked out well. And shortly thereafter, my father was drafted into the Army because of, what was going on then was World War II, and we were engulfed in that. What I remember of that time, there's not a lot, but I do remember helping my mom make butter. And the butter came in what we would probably today call a Ziploc bag, but in those days it was a plastic bag. And it looked white. It was a little red dot in the middle.
Yes.
And it was my job to make butter. And I was supposed to squeeze on that, squeeze on that, and squeeze on that until it turned all yellow. And oh, that was magical. So I helped make butter. I did. My mother helped me do that too. She would squeeze a little bit too, because my little hands would get tired. But anyway, and I remember her listening to the radio and the songs that were playing, the big band era songs, and Arthur Godfrey and those kinds of things on the radio. We didn't have any TV set because there weren't any, but we did have radio. And I remember my mom dancing around the kitchen to the songs and all of that. It was a lot of fun. So childhood memories are of that era, helping me remember my mother and that butter and that music and all of those wonderful things. Mom was a stay-at-home mother. She, was always there no matter what. She, when you got home from school, or came in from play, and when you got older, when we got home from work, she was there, always there, never outside the family. She was a gentle soul and could always be counted on for wise counsel. You behave yourself. That was her favorite saying. And it just so happens we had that printed on the back of her tombstone. You kids behave yourself. That was my mom, behave yourself. And wherever we went, whatever happened, whatever crisis was going on in our lives, she had that wise counsel. She was a wonderful cook too. We always had a warm breakfast. It was usually oatmeal. I get so tired of oatmeal, but it was really good. It was nourishing and it kept us on our way. And sometimes, we would put cinnamon sugar in it, and lots of that, lots of sugar, a little bit of cinnamon. And to this day, I love cinnamon sugar in my oatmeal. I had some at the restaurant the other day. I meant to tell them to just give me the plain oatmeal, and I forgot, and they put cinnamon sugar on it. Oh my gosh, was it good. It did bring back memories. Yeah. My mother was my first spiritual teacher, too. When I was a little girl, she would have us, me and my brother, and two of my brothers would kneel beside our bed, close our eyes, and we would say this prayer. Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love commits me here, ever this day be at my side, to light and guard, to rule and guide. Amen. And then we would say, God bless Grandma Kelley, Grandma Smith, Grandpa Kelley, Grandpa Smith, God bless Mom, and God bless Dad. It went on for a while as we got older. But when she was teaching me, there weren't so many kids at that time. So God bless me, and God bless my brother Jimmy, and my brother Gary, and those kinds of things. So, and she prepared me for my first Holy Communion. And she did that by getting me this white dress, this white gown thing, and a veil to go with it, and white shoes and white socks. And gifts that were given to us were like white prayer books and white rosaries. And so we were ready for this. And then she would help me with my prayers, learning my prayers and learning how to pray that rosary. And the interesting thing about praying that rosary, when I prayed it, I could feel myself, because, the Hail Marys were a lot of prayers of the Hail Mary in there. And I could feel myself walking down that country road right next to Mother Mary. We called her Virgin Mary in those days. And I could actually feel her presence, and I was walking along beside her. I could really feel that. And I know when it came time for me to go to school, of course we went to Catholic school because we were Catholics, if you hadn't guessed that by now, we were. And I was falsely accused of writing chalk on the brand new school gymnasium. Somebody had written on the gymnasium. And someone saw me, I had a piece of chalk, but I didn't write that, I didn't do that. But they told the nuns that I did. And if you've ever tried to convince a nun that you didn't do something that they were convinced you did, it doesn't work. So I was out there scrubbing with this bucket of water, scrubbing that off, and it was cold, and I remember that. And the priest came out, and he said, I guess you won't do that again. I said, but I didn't do it. And he said, oh, okay. So he went on. He didn't tell me I could stop, but anyway, I cleaned off. Anyway, when I got home, my mother wanted to know about all that because, of course, they called her. And my mother listened to me.
Beautiful.
She listened to me, she listened to what happened, and she saw my little tears going down my face. And she said, okay, it's all right. It's done. It's okay. And she had conversation with the nuns, and they didn't say anything more to me about that. They didn't say another word. They didn't apologize. They didn't do anything. But my mother just loved me through it. And that was a big deal, because I didn't think anybody else believed me, but my mom did. Yeah, she knew. She knew her daughter. She knew she wouldn't lie. So, my mom was always someone on whose shoulder I could cry on, and she always listened to all of my stories. She was a support when my heart was broken. She was a healer when I was sick. If I already told you about when I got the measles and I would go in and out of sleep and consciousness. And every time I woke up, my mother was there with this cloth to cool my face and my neck and my shoulders. And she was always there. Wonderful. She was, I remember one time, when I was a junior in high school, that I was gonna go to the senior prom, and I had this date. And I saved up, because I was working at the time, I saved up my money to buy the gown, and I got the gown, and I got the shoes, and I was ready to go. And about a week before, the boy backed out. Yeah, he had another girlfriend. And he said, well, I'll go ahead and take you, but I have another girlfriend, I need you to know. And I said, you know what, that's okay, that's okay, go with your other girlfriend. And I went home in tears to my mom. And again, she comforted me. And she said, well, we could take the dress back, and we did. We took it back. But the shoes I kept because I liked the shoes. Yeah, gotta have the shoes. But in any case, she was always there. She was always comforting. I remember she would stay up late with me in my homework. Because, after school, and then for a while. But after a while, she made me do my homework before I could go out and do anything else, rather than wait until after dinner. But in any case, I was really amazed. I had a hard time with math, and then came algebra, and I was just totally lost. And she would sit down with me, and we would go over all of those formulas and things that we needed to do. And I always remember that, because you see, my mother never finished high school. But she was smarter than me with math than I would ever be until I got into college and found a teacher who could teach me math. But in any case, my mom was the one who helped me through the difficult things, the hard things. She always seemed to know. I don't know what it was. She must have channeled it. I don't know. But one of the things that happened also when I was in Catholic school was one day we were having a lesson on what we wanted to become when we were out of school. And of course, girls were supposed to want to be nurses and teachers and things like that. But no, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a priest. And I said so. I got laughed at. Oh, no, Mary, I can't be a priest. That's for men, that's for boys. Only you can be a nun. Well, I didn't want to be a nun. I wasn't even really all that fond of them, to tell you the truth, but anyway. Some of them I were, and some of them I wasn't. But in any case, so I put that aside, and I said, well, if I can't be a priest, I gotta have to think of something else. And I couldn't think of anything else I wanted to be. So anyway, I moved on, and I totally forgot about it until I met my second mother, Ann Meyer. I met her. She was Ann Meyer when I met her. Yeah. And she was a teacher, a spiritual teacher for me. My first spiritual mother that I can remember. But I told her that I was Catholic, and what I wanted to do was take the class and learn about the powers of the mind. And she said, well, come on. And I told her that I didn't, but I wasn't sure about it, because you were going to talk about God, and I didn't know, being a Catholic, I was going to have to give up my church, and I didn't want to do that. She said, Mary Ann, this is not a church. This is a school. You don't have to give up anything. Whew. I wasn't going to burn in hell. How about that? I wasn't going to burn in hell. Thank you, God. So I took the classes, and the class I wanted was self-mastery, because that's the one where you learned about your spiritual gifts. And I had already read the Being a Christ textbook. I thought, well, I already know what that is. I already read that. And you said, no. You have to take the class so you can be with other students and you can get your questions answered. Well, I don't have any questions. You have to take the class. Okay, so I took the class. You can see where I'm a little bit. And she said, okay. So I took the class, and I was glad that I did, because I did learn a whole lot more. I did get my name and my contact by reading, because I wanted it so much. But I learned a lot more about how to use it, and about healing entity influences that might come around and things like that, that I didn't really pick up from the book because I wasn't into that part of it. And I didn't actually believe in ghosts anyway. And she said, well, put it on the shelf and it'll prove itself if it's true for you, and if it's not, it won't. So just put it on the shelf and see what happens. Well, I said, well, if that's true, I wanna know, I want proof. Oh my goodness. Well, I got the proof. One night I was reading the book, preparing for a lesson, and all of a sudden everything kind of went gray. There was no color. Everything went from color, like we see right now, to gray, and then to dark. And all of a sudden I felt really dense. And I thought, oh my gosh, this must be that. It really felt real icky. And I couldn't remember the words, and I had the book in front of me, but I couldn't think to do that. What I could think to do was to call a friend who was also in the class, who had taken the class before me, and called her, and she did the healing for me, and everything came back to normal. What happened when I was in that dark place was that my dog yelped and went running under the bed, and she wouldn't come out for a long time. So I knew something was wrong. I think that's when I knew something was wrong, when the dog did that, because she was my dog, you know. Anyway, she came out, but she didn't come out right away. She didn't. I was glad my children were in bed and my whole house was cleared. So that was my first spiritual mother. And I had a couple more too. We'll talk about those in a little bit. But my mother, my earthly mother, could bring harmony into my life in so many ways. She just was, I miss her so much, you know. I just, when I started my journey with the teaching of the inner Christ, my mom was concerned for me. My mother was a psychic person, highly psychic. And, but she didn't have the tools that we have. We have the tools to heal the spirit, the entities that come to us. We can heal them and help them move on to their next realm, to their higher place in life on the other side. And my mother didn't have those tools, and those things came to her. And they talked to her, and they told her something. My father came home from work just as she was starting to set fire to the curtains because they told her to. So she spent some time in a mental hospital with things like shock treatment, really terrible things. But she survived all that. We went to live with my grandmother for a while and my aunt for a while. But anyway, when we came home, my mom was a little bit different than she was before. But she was still, basically, Mom. She was still the loving person that she'd always been, and she was still the person who would help us with our work and love us. But she and my father were not as close as they once were. But that's another story for another time. But in any case, when I told her, when I started my journey with TIC, she was afraid for me because of that reason. For that reason. Because we were healing dead people, and we were, like exorcism, Mary? No, Mom, because they're not hurtful. We're helping them to go to where they belong. They're disembodied souls. And we had long talks about things like that, and she listened. She was very attentive, and she wanted to know. And I asked her, would you like me to send you the book? And she said, no. She said, that's your journey, Marianne. Mine is here. Mine is Catholicism. Yours is something else, and I honor that. Do you know what that meant to me? Oh my gosh. Coming from a Catholic background, how my mother honored my choices to go another road. But she understood, because she had been on the journey, but she was afraid for me. And I explained to her, I said, Mom, you didn't have the safeguards. You didn't know about your inner Christ, your higher self, that inner voice. She said, I know the inner voice. I know Jesus when I feel him. So she knew. And she blessed me and said, it's for you, Marianne, and I feel like it's right. So she felt, and Jesus was talking to her too, about my journey into this place. So when I wanted to become a minister, it dawned on me, all those years back, when I wanted to become a priest, and I couldn't. What I really wanted to do was to serve God. And so my way was not that way. My way was another way. So you see, we're being prepared all the time for what is to come. We're always being prepared. God is always speaking to us and through us, and protecting us and guiding us. Who could ask for more than a mother who could bring harmony and peace and calm us and love us no matter what? Wow. Thank you, God, and all of us for the wonderful mothers. The mothers that we chose, the mothers that nurtured us and guided us. And the lessons that we learned, sometimes easy, sometimes not so easy. But Mom's love was always there. So I thank you. Oh, I have a little poem here that I found online. And it says, "My mother is a woman like no other. She gave me life, nurtured me, and taught me, and helped me, shouted at me, oh yes, kissed me, and most importantly, loved me unconditionally. There are not enough words that I can describe just how important my mother was to me, and what a powerful influence that she had on me. I love you dearly, Mother." And two other spiritual mothers I'd like to acknowledge. Well, one I already did, and that's Anne. And her name was actually Annette. And the meaning is little Anne. And in Hebrew, it comes from the name Hannah, meaning favor or grace. And we know, those of us who knew Anne knew she was filled with favor and grace. And my other spiritual mother was Ruth. And Ruth means companion, friend, visible vision of beauty. And those of you who knew Ruth Schimmel, Anne's mother, know that she embodied all of that. And so I say, thank you, wonderful God. Thank you, for wonderful God, for all of the mothers in my life, and all of the love that I have been shared. Thank you, moms. I love you all. So it is, so let it be. Amen. Thank you. Thank you for listening.